Let's give people some foundation about how our conversation came about. I'm sure that we can come up with a whole lot of really good questions that women are looking for a place where they can ask a conscious man what's actually going on, and enough openness in those questions, particularly if someone else is representing the questions for them, where they can just be as candid as they need to be. And it sounds like that's a bit about what happened in the conversation with your girlfriends.
It so is. As a woman, I know that sex is more about so much more than the physical element and the intensity and the connection with somebody. It is actually a very spiritual experience too, because when a woman orgasms, all her chakras align. It's a necessity in a way, a spiritual necessity that women orgasm. So many conversations that I have with women, guys they don't know what to do with a woman's body. They fumble around, they slop around. When they go down, it's a freaking nightmare, and all this sort of stuff, right?
Let's create some distinctions about different kinds of sex. So there's fucking, which is physically intense, and
Exactly.
there's chemistry, there's intensity, there's many people who've never experienced even a good fuck. They just haven't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then there is lovemaking, which is connected, and it's emotional, and it's personal, and it's intimate, and it's open, but there is a lack of fucking in it. It's just it's intimate, and it's gentle, and it's sensual, and it's caring.
And it gets boring, which is why you need the fucking element into it, and also why you need the spiritual soul sex as well.
Absolutely. And where most people in a long-term relationship end up in is just purely humping. They're going through the motions. And a samey is the same as it was the last time, the same as it was before that, the same as it was the time before that. There's these 4 moves that we do, this to this to this to that, and that, like, you know exactly what's coming.
Yeah,
And
it's predictable. Yeah.
So that's humping. Humping is just, moving it, going through the motions. Maybe you even both climax. Great. But it's the same climax that you've had the last. The sex gets less and less and less because there's kind of no reason to do it. You know what to expect. There's nothing exciting that's going to happen. And then there's a combination of lovemaking and fucking, which I call ravishing. And it has all the components of the physical and the spiritual there all the time. And when you're in relationship with a conscious man, you as a woman become sexually receptive all the time. You're in a state of semi-arousal all the time.
Yeah.
You don't stop thinking about the man that you're with because he's constantly connected to you. He's not chasing you around, but he's connected.
Yeah.
He's present. He's magnificently living his life. Every time you see him in what he's doing, you're thinking, oh my God, look at that. Oh yeah, he's the one I'm with. And look at what he's doing. Look at the kind of man he is, the kind of father he is, the kind of contributor in his community is.
Yeah, and it pulls at your soul, and it pulls at your sexual space of who you are, and all of that sort of stuff. It engages you on so many levels.
And what happens when you're in that kind of relationship is that the relationship itself is the foreplay.
Yes.
Everything about the dynamic of the relationship is the foreplay. So it's not, life is stressful, this is hard, I kind of forget who you are, okay, now I need to take time out, I need to reconnect, we need to go have a dinner and candlelight and do this and set all this up, and then we need to start slowly by kissing and touching. When you're in a relationship with a conscious man, all of that is present all the time, and so you could both run off on a lunch hour for a 15-minute quickie in your car.
Yeah, yeah.
Anytime, all the time. Or you can take a whole weekend off where you're at home or getting a motel. You're so connected on all those levels that the type of typical sexual interaction that most people have where they're bored of the humping, it doesn't exist. And what I can tell you qualitatively is that when you're in a relationship with a conscious man, whether it's your second time or your 1,002nd time, it's better than the last time. it gets better and better and better. Every time it gets that much better. It's not like, oh, you remember the time because every time you're connected, it's that much more connected, that much more intimate, that much more physical, that much more spiritual than the last time, no matter what happened.
And I guess that is for a lot of reasons. One is because it is that conscious connection, and it is that spiritual intensity and that understanding as well. But it's also of course, the desire and the passion and the want to feel that energy, to feel that sexual energy, to feel the sexual tension even, and to enjoy the bliss, enjoy the moment and be in the moment and actually enjoy that blissful state and things like that. I think what I'd like to, throw on the table too is that, speaking to a few of my girlfriends over the weekend and last week about this, some of them are in really great relationships, but they're instigating all the time too, and it's getting a bit old. Like one of them wanted to try different positions and all that sort of stuff. I mean, one of the girls was a bit shy about bringing that up, so she didn't know how to bring it up. The other one was, pretty forthright, I think, from the sounds of it, with her partner. And, when it came to the table, he wasn't prepared. He was just fumbling. I guess preparation and, planning and instigating and researching and wanting to know more is a great element to bring to the table as well.
Yeah, I think there's an even more fundamental rule about sexuality in general. And I have, that I have 3 daughters and my oldest is 13.
Yeah.
And I don't think the rules are any different for a grown woman than they are for a teen. And that's basically, if you can't talk about whatever it is that you're interested in as easily and candidly and openly as any other subject in life, you're probably not ready to do it. So
yeah, right.
Sex is this amazing drug. It's this powerful thing that we get to do, and there's taboo that's attached to it, and there's titillation, and there's all these other things. But if you're approaching sex to fill some hole of boredom in your life, that's an issue. But if you're approaching it with your partner and you're having a conversation, I mean, people can hear in the level of candor that you and I are having a conversation about anal sex. That's a majorly taboo part of sexuality that people have tremendous amounts of whether aversion or interest or intrigue or whatever it is to do with. But you and I can have a conversation about that as candidly as we talk about what we did with our kids when they came home after school.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right? So if you're thinking about doing something with your partner, if the two of you can't have a conversation about it without turning red, without using euphemisms, without needing a glass of wine to do it first,
yes,
then you're probably not at the level where that should be the thing that you're trying. And I had this the conversation that I have had with my oldest daughter has been this: sex is like going to the ocean and doing something there. It's you've looked forward to it your whole life. You have this dream about what it might be, but everyone has different levels of experience and things that they want to do. So when you get there, make sure that you're matched up with someone who's going to be at the same level that you're at. And for someone, they take a trip and they go to the ocean and they come back and people say, how was it? And they say, oh, it was amazing. It was everything I dreamed it would be. I kicked my shoes off. I rolled my pant legs up. I wandered around in the surf. I got my toes wet. I enjoyed the feeling of the sand under them. And I can't wait to go back again. And everything that they describe about that process and their experience, and it sounds like the most magical thing that's ever happened in their life. And then you and I go to the beach and come back and people say, how was it? And we say, oh, it was amazing. I went wakeboarding and I did scuba diving and I did some jet skiing and I did some kite surfing and it was so incredible. And we both had the same level of like, oh my God, wasn't that the best experience that I've ever had?
Yeah.
But you and I can go kite surfing together, whereas someone else is at the level of wading around it in the surf. And for both individuals, it may feel like the most amazing thing that's happened because it's sex.
because it's at their level too.
Exactly.
Because I'm just reading through this list of like these 3 billion questions I've got here from all the girls, and one of them has been in a relationship for a long time now. She would be nervous she would be shy as to raise that, but the desire to do that is great. But I think because she has been in this relationship for such a long time, she's nervous about what he'll say. I mean, they're very solid and all that sort of stuff, but she's just a shy kind of girl, really. So, to raise something about, wanting something different, or one of her things was about porn. Is it a good idea to watch porn movies together or not, So, she wants to do all this kind of thing. She wants to see a porn movie. She wants to do, she wants to understand about, what he wants and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, the hurdle that she gets over is her own shyness and her own fear of what he will think if she asks, So she's such a passionate woman. She's such an incredible woman, and she's passionate about so many areas in her life. It's only typical that she should be passionate about, passionate in the bedroom too. So how does she raise that with a guy? How does that happen? Like you said, that she's probably not ready. Well, I think she really is ready. She just doesn't know how to say it. So I would hate for her to go to her, get to the end of the life and not try any of these great things that she's got on her list to do.
Okay, well, let's talk about it at 2 levels. There's a practical level that someone can go through and some steps that they can take, and then there's the more life spiritual level that we're looking at about what are you prepared to settle for, because there's 2 people in a relationship. I don't believe in such a thing as a couple. I don't believe that there's an entity called a couple. I believe you're always dealing with 2 individuals.
Yes.
And you can only control your side of the equation.
Yes.
So the big question is, if you're prepared to do that and your partner is uncomfortable or it freaks them out, then are you prepared to settle and stay at that level for the rest of your life? But let's talk about a practical way that you can navigate through what tends to be a somewhat uncomfortable conversation. For the most part, men find it threatening if their partner is more interested in something sexually than they are, because we're trained that we're supposed to be the instigator, that we're supposed to be the one who's sexually aggressive. The first question that you have here is, how often do men fantasize about having sex with other women? Well, that depends entirely on the level of consciousness that he's at and to what degree he's settled in the relationship that he's in right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
sure does.
It could be 20 times a day. What I can tell you is, as a conscious man, that I have been in relationships with women where I'm not interested in any other woman. Not because I'm a special chivalrous kind of guy and working hard at it, but literally I have made a very clear connection with a specific woman, and other women aren't interesting to me as sexual entities. I may find them sexually attractive.
You would be fantasizing about your woman 50,000 times a day instead, right?
No.
You don't even fantasize about your woman.
No, because at the point of consciousness, a man has far more important things to do with his time and energy than to spin the wheels in his head about sex.
Right.
We've spent decades doing that until we get to that point.
Well, that's actually a surprise to me, because that's one of the, because as women, we are so conditioned to believe that men just think about sex all the time. I mean, I know women think about sex a whole lot, an awful lot, especially when you get, hit your 40s, it's like game on for sure. But that's surprising to me. I would have thought that you would have, thought about having sex and that intimacy and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, okay. And
even the average 40-year-old, like an unconscious 40-year-old man, thinks about sex less. He has more responsibilities on his shoulders. He's more worried about what he needs to do to show up as a man in society than he's thinking specifically about sex. Now, when men go to porn, that's not so much fantasizing about women as an escape from responsibility.
Right.
Right? It's like going off and watching TV or playing a video game. If you get in front of your computer or magazine or whatever it is, that's a distraction from life.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
If you have a woman in your life that you're truly connected to and you're horny and she's receptive, why wouldn't you be going there?
Yeah. Why would you be escaping the reality and the opportunity of who you are by, externalizing it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I have so I don't have an issue with porn.
Yeah.
And I've had relationships with partners who have not liked porn, but the majority of women that I have connected with are totally fine with porn. They have watched it on their own. They're content and enjoy watching it as part of a relationship. But for the most part, at the level of experiences that I've had as this degree of consciousness, there's very little titillation left in porn. There's very little that it has to offer that my partner doesn't. So there's just no reason to go to it. There's nothing that another woman has to offer, right? So I know you. I find you an attractive woman. I know that you would be great in bed. And if there's if there's no reason for us to make a connection, there's no reason for me to seek you out. There's no, I don't know you as well as the woman that I'd be in relationship with.
Yeah.
So I don't need to chase other women around. There's nothing in that experience that holds anything for me. I don't need to chase it down or put it into what men call the spank bank, right? To have this image later that we masturbate to, because there's just too many things that are more important going on in my life than the need to recall that image. But for men who are not living consciously, they are in a constant state of distraction and looking. So it can be a whole lot. And the reason that they're doing that, I had a friend call me up and she was crying and she said she walked in on her husband cheating on her. And I'm like, oh my God, that must have been so traumatic. What happened? And I came in and he was on his computer and I'm like, oh my God, that's what you call cheating?
Oh, geez, here I am. I've got a completely different image in my head too.
Wow.
Let me tell you. But isn't it interesting? I personally am not, I don't watch porn movies, but if I want to understand or know some, more moves or some different things that I could do or experience, I will seek out it on the internet so I can learn what it's about, how to do it, all that kind of stuff, and the only way to do that is really, through, porn material and things like that. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I personally wouldn't sit down and watch a porn movie with my partner or with somebody, a partner, at all. But she wanted to know, is it a good idea to sit down and watch it?
It depends on the couple. I mean, I've watched porn in relationships with partnerships that I've had, but it's really, if you're not sure about that and you're not sure how your partner feels about it, it's almost the equivalent of watching it with your parents. If you're not sure about your partner and how they're going to feel about it, you have no idea what's going to come on that screen. You don't know how you're feeling about it. You don't know how they're feeling about it. So unless it's a relationship where the two of you have watched porn previously, then you need to be at the point where, like I said before, you can have a really open conversation about it. Hey, this sounds fun and we're both looking forward to it. Let's try it. We're going to go pick out a movie. Let's find something that's kind of tame. We don't want to end up into something that's totally weird and bizarre that freaks us out. Or if we do, hopefully you have a relationship that's strong enough that you can laugh at and go, oh my God, I didn't even know people could do that. And
true. And whatever it looks like to you, it's not really my thing, but having said that does not mean it doesn't have to be, anybody listening on this call does not mean it's not your thing. You could be right into it and your partner could be right into it. And you know what? Awesome. That's great, because that's something that you enjoy together. It's something that connects you. But as long as it doesn't distract you from going to those intimate places of each other, physical, emotional, and spiritual, that's all good. Okay, so next question was the signs of a cheating husband.
It's going to depend on the man. What are the signs? You know what, women, you have a gift. It's called intuition.
Yeah, because you're thinking it.
Yeah,
It's a
and
doubt.
whether it's an issue on your side or he's not doing something that's proving to you in every moment of the being that he has that you're the one.
Yeah.
And I think women realize that if a man isn't doing that, then his other options in some way, shape, or form are open. Whether he's just fantasizing, whether he's actually cheating, if you don't feel that level of commitment to you, it's probably not there. And doesn't necessarily mean that he's actually having physical sex with another woman, but maybe he's found an intimate emotional connection somewhere that doesn't exist between the two of you. That hurts just as much.
Yeah, true. Okay, well, the next questions are, is it a main priority for men that their partners praise their sexual performance? How do guys feel about that? How does an evolved guy feel about that? Do you need to be told that you are fucking amazing or something like that? I mean, how does it feel? What's for you and what's it like for the regular guy?
Yeah, well, it's sexually, it's a very different experience because there's no way that you can keep those words off your lips when you're with a with a conscious man. It's everything you can do. You have to go around closing windows to make sure the whole community doesn't know what's happening, how your mind is being blown over and over and over. So, but as a general rule of thumb, it helps a guy there's just two things really that you need to do. You need to be giving him sort of warmer, colder signals as a general rule of thumb, right? So that's just moaning a little bit more when he's moving in the right direction or doing something and not making any sounds when it's going in the wrong direction, and then saying, being really specific if it's something that irritates or hurts. But for sure, use words to say that's great. Really important phrases that are meaningful to a man are, "Oh my God, I'm close." Like just, "I'm getting close," or that's in some way, shape, or form saying that's really doing it for me. And then tell him when you're orgasming.
That's not like if you're half an hour out, ladies, either. Like, it means close is close.
Yeah, I'm seconds. I'm seconds away, which is basically, or you can just say, "Don't stop." So that he may energetically be at the end of what his hips or his tongue or whatever he's using can do. So let him know, yeah, you're 20 seconds away, so don't quit now. But like women orgasm in different ways. Their bodies do different things. Some women have extremely physical orgasms where different parts of their body is contracting and it's really obvious. Other women orgasm in a much deeper way that's a more cervical orgasm that's harder for a man to detect. Some women have their skin gets really flushed. Some women scream. Some women's eyes roll back in their head. If those aren't any of the indications that you have that are incredibly demonstrative, then say that there's nothing that is higher praise to a man than when you say, "I'm coming." That's it. But you just have to say that, and we're like, "Yoo-hoo, we did it."
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. If a woman allows herself to go there, then they can feel it more often, and the intensity and the level of the orgasm is completely different for the guy and the girl. I think it's important to say too. You said when you're with a conscious man, it's never the same. And, that's music to a woman's ears, because quite often it's a woman that in my experience with the girls around me and also myself to a degree, it's always you instigating different things and newness into the bedroom every time it happens. You want something different. You want to feel something different. You don't want to have it predictable. So the only way to change that is obviously to do something about it. But she wants to know what happens, when sex gets boring and it's the same position, like i.e. what you're talking about, the same 4 positions, or start off here, do this, do that, what could she do, I guess? What could she say to him?
If you want to work on your partner's ability to be more interesting in the bedroom, the easiest way to do that is through sexting. Basically, we all have phones now, and so you just be suggestive. You just say things, and you can be the least edgy as you need to be to get that started, and apply something, and then just add more and more onto that. And it builds up the anticipation for both of you. And so that the foreplay has already started before you're connecting. And so you already have this energy of horniness when you're meeting each other, which allows for different things to happen. And maybe you've kind of suggested this or try that, or, they come home and for the first time ever, you're just there in an overcoat, or you're waiting naked in the bed, or whatever you want to dream up. It doesn't really matter what it is. The average guy is thrilled that you're initiating. We just have to find a balance between initiating and, shocking the hell out of him that it's a whole different character than he's ever dreamed that he could be.
But I really get that, and I think that is just so important. Sex is about not just the moment, it's about the whole day. It's about the things that are said and done and all that sort of stuff leading up to the moment where you just can't wait to rip each other's clothes off and get into it, that kind of thing. Whatever that looks like, whether it's that urgent, passionate sex, or whether it's that slow and intimate sex, whatever it may be. But I think that women, there's a lot of conscious women around me, Graham, a lot of them. And one of the things that they will often cite is that, they are consistently initiating and the man is not initiating, It's never the man initiating different things. And actually, when I'm reading through these other questions, there's a few others about that, why do men, when they get into a relationship, get into the same old, do they lose the interest and the desire to try to please you in different ways, or to explore your body, or have they just given up, or do they just want to get their rocks off? That kind of question. There was that question, and how do they get them to change, the way that they see pleasuring the woman and things like that, because it just seems to be that there is a lot of guys that don't initiate. They're not interesting in bed. They are very same, boring old. And so many women, like I spoke to 6 different women on the weekend, and they all said the same thing, that they're so sick to death of being the initiator and the one that brings things to the table.
So there's 2 pieces to that. One is that you have to understand that unconscious men are fundamentally afraid of feminine energy, particularly female sexuality. So the idea that a man is going to do something and bring something and perform sexually with a woman who he doesn't feel man enough to be present in all the other dynamics of a relationship the way that he wants to be is terrifying to him. And so we're both scared of this edge of sexuality, of offending our partner or doing something that they find uncomfortable. So doing something that's different sets a man up to potentially be rejected, for her to say, what do you think you're doing? Or what was that? Or that was completely wrong.
Right.
So if he doesn't have that confidence in himself to begin with, then he can't. So the best advice that I can give you is how to coach him along to get some of those things that are different that you like. And there's 2 ways to do that. One, you can kind of tease him through it gently and let him know that you're open to it, and follow the breadcrumb trail to the next new thing that you're going to try. Or you can say, decide for yourself, this is the standard of relationship that I now am expecting and open to in my life, and he's either going to step into it or he's not, and be clear about that, and give him the space and the challenge to do it. And if you have a great relationship, chances are he's going to step up into it. If you're wondering, is he happy? Oh my God, is he cheating? Probably not the right time to do it. So you can do it one of those 2 ways. You can kind of coach him through it and give him those little signals and signs and let him know that it's okay, because he's probably never, until he takes on some big thing in life and becomes conscious, going to change. You're going to need to guide him through it without scaring the crap out of him in the process. Or you're going to say, I believe that you have the capacity to do this. I want you to show up as the man in my life. I believe that you can do this in every area. You are my hero. You are my strength. You're my man. You're my stallion. You're my stud. I see you as that, and I want to create the space for you to step up that way, because as a woman, that's how I want to experience you. So no more of this humping stuff. We're done.
Yeah.
Let's go see a sex counselor. Let's go through therapy.
Yeah.
Let's do a relationship course. Let's take this sucker to the next level. I want it to be you and great sex for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So let's do it together.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, because women do really, really, they long for, they're, God, I'll even go so far as to say desperate for a man to show up, to be in their lives. And there are few men, there's a lot of guys that want to be taught by their women. They want to be supported by their women. They want to be held by their women. You know what? We've got our own bloody kids. We don't need a big one. And that is, oh gosh, talk about one of the frequently mentioned things over the last couple of weeks with girls. That would have to be it. Women just have, I would go so far as to say probably a good 80% of the women I spoke to don't have a man in their life, desperately want to, but don't have a man in their life. What they do have is a second or third or fourth child, and it's so incredibly fucking unattractive, and it crushes libido like poison, it's just, so... But it's interesting how you say that, because women need to know that too. Women need to know that a consciously evolved woman can freak, maybe a not entirely evolved guy out. And they also need to know the right words to build a guy's confidence in, his confidence in himself and his sexual awareness and his game, basically, without nurturing or mothering him. And I think that, I think that's important that we know the right things to say and to do, for our children, but also for our men.
And I think a good tip that I can give women is, rather than looking at starting with a video, go start with a book. Go with your partner to a bookstore. Go to the couples section, the sex section, whatever it is, and the two of you pick out a book together. That's probably a type of conversation that if you're going to be able to have one, you can start there, and you can both look through things and say, I kind of like this, and find one that you both like together. And do work through that. And if you're not at the level where you can do that, then there's other parts of your relationship that you need to address first. So go to a counselor, go to a course, go do something like that. Have or have one of the conversations where you lay all the cards out on the table to determine if you're going to spend the rest of your life in a dead end samey. Those are the decisions that we need to make ourselves. But no. Men are scared of sexuality. Men are scared to take on their role of leadership. It's not their fault. We haven't been led by a generation of conscious men. We're just coming into that ourselves. We're 30 years behind the women. And like I said, I'm working with conscious men that lead other men in really moving this forward as quickly as we can in the conversation, so that there are mentors for men as they go through this and begin having conversations ourselves. And there is a sense of angst in our generation. And I've seen a number of articles talking about this is the most seriously underfucked generation of women that's ever existed. There's all this consciousness and passion and juiciness and vitality that's just waiting to be connected to something, and yet it's not there to be embraced back on the other side. So if you're feeling that, yes, it's a real feeling. And just know there are men that are out there that are working on getting those conversations going with men.
But see, this is it. Women are talking about it. The conversations flooding around in women's circles are predominantly about that. I mentor a lot of women, and I mentor a lot of business women. But we get onto a whole lot of stuff about life and about relationships and about who they are within these, spaces and their purpose and all that sort of stuff. But geez, there's a lot of conversation about sex. Hey, there's a lot of conversation about men. And, women are starting to be really confident about their sexuality and who they are and what they want and all that sort of stuff. But, geez, we just hope it's not too long before the men catch up, really, because it's necessary. Just one question. So if men are out there and they really want to know more about this, is there somewhere that they can go, or what suggestions do you have for them?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is for them just to go to the Facebook page, Modern Masculine Man, and they can ask any question they want there. It's going to be specific to the man and what he's doing. And I'll know what the resources are. But I want to tell any man who's listening, boy, when you step through onto the other side of this, the world's your oyster. And I don't just mean with women. In every dynamic, everything that you've ever imagined and fantasized about in every dynamic of life becomes what your experience is.
So they go to there, they can ask a question if they feel that they want a little bit more mentorship or something like that. What then do they do?
Yeah, ask the question, all the men that I'm in connection with do work with other men. They're in all different parts of the world. And depending on what's going on for the man, I'll direct him to who I think is the most appropriate resource for him, whether it's an individual or something to read. The resources are there.
Okay, well, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, I'm really so grateful to be a part of this because I'm very passionate about women stepping into their evolved selves, and you're on a mission to make sure that happens with men and women as well. So it's awesome to see. I love what you do, and I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for your getting me on the call today. It was fun. It was fun talking about
Thanks you too, Rachel. Yeah, it's awesome. You're a great interview.
Well, thank you so much. I kind of felt like I was interviewing you, putting you through your paces from all the girls' questions, but, it was just so enlightening. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay, darling. Shall do. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.